Welcome, welcome. Oh my gosh, we have so many things going on right now. This is going to be all about like this week's energy, especially with the Piscean new moon that happens on March 18th at 9:23 p.m. Eastern time. So we are now stepping into that new moon portal as the eclipse portal is finally closing after being open and shifting so many different things around in your life, transforming so many things in your life over the past 6 weeks. For 6 weeks, we have been kind of like moving through all of this. And so you probably don't need an astrologer to tell you that things are different, but things are different, right? And so for anybody who is not familiar with me, I am Renee Massey. I'm a feminine embodiment coach. I am also an astrologer, a psychic medium, a divine channel. I work very, very much with the devotional energy of the priestesses. As a priestess myself, an emissary of grace, wisdom, love, and light from the great beyond. It's the Mary Magdalens, the Kali, the Caradwin, the all of these beautiful magical women who have walked this earth and have done extraordinary things and yet have been rather sidelined. And I feel like this is actually a huge part of this shift, by the way, which I will get into. I will get into all of this. So with the eclipse portal closing, I just want to kind of give you a little bit of backstory about what we have been going through. Okay. So we had the solar eclipse in Aquarius on February 7th. This changed a lot of different things for us, meaning it started to realign your life's trajectory, realign your life's direction. Things were starting to, you could probably feel like something's kind of breaking loose over here, something's starting to kind of percolate and show up over here. It could have been an intellectual thought, a feeling, an intuition that like something is moving my life from over here to now being a little bit more over here. And you have to really look at what house Aquarius is in for you to really understand like what was going to change in your life. So for me, I don't have any planets in my first house, but my first house is Aquarius because my rising sign is Capricorn. So I don't have any active planets in that house in that particular house, but that's okay because the moon was moving through Aquarius, which is in my first house. And so I know that a lot of the shifts that I was going to go through in this entire eclipse vortex of energy was going to be a lot of identity shifting, consciousness within the self, how I see myself, how I carry myself, how I share who I am with the world, how I show up in my identity. That is something that was going to change. And I can absolutely validate that I have felt a lot of very significant transformations within who I see myself as, how I connect with my truth, how I connect with my identity, the different things that had been probably little obstacles, blocks, resistance, wounds, scar tissue, just different things that may have created a little barrier between my former self and what I desire for myself as an individual, and letting myself actually move into that. But knowing that as that started to take shape, we also had the lunar eclipse on March 3rd on the 3-3 portal, which 3-3 is all about transformation. That particular one hit my eighth house, which is the house of death and transformation. So it's been a very interesting journey for me, as I'm sure it has been for everyone else. And just paying attention to the different things that have been made available to you during this time. We have done a lot of shadow work, a lot of karmic cleansing. I will really emphasize the karmic cleansing part because when we had the lunar eclipse in Virgo on March 3rd, that was in the South Node because Pisces is in the North Node right now. So that means that the South Node, which is a direct opposition, would be in Virgo because Virgo and Pisces are direct opposites to each other. So North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo. The lunar eclipse was moving through Virgo, and that was aligning with South Node stuff, which is all about karmic cycles, clearing out a lot of the shadow fears. So really putting in your face and maybe leave it in the comments if you have noticed this has happened for you. Because I, for one, can absolutely say, yep, this has happened for me. Facing fears. So this means that something, maybe a few things, like it could be one thing, a one singular big thing. It could be multiples, like smaller things, but something over the past couple of weeks has been like staring you in the face. And it was something that you probably felt very surprised by, something that kind of blindsided you in a way, something that you didn't think was going to happen. And it really initiated a lot of fear, but not initiated. I don't, you know what? I don't want to use that word because of the fact that the fear has always been there. So it wasn't like all of a sudden you're initiating this new fear. What it did was it activated an old fear. So I will reframe it that way. It reactivated an old fear based system that's been lying kind of dormant. And it always wants you to know that it's there, which is why you will create very comfortable movements in your life, right? Like there are things that we definitely avoid. There are things that we try to emphasize a little bit more. And that's because we are curating a life of what a desired comfort. We don't want to live in fear and doubt and discomfort. And all of it is illusion based anyway. But the way that it hits us in our body and in our nervous system, it's a very real thing. And that's because it's stemming from a previous experience. It is rooted in something that has already been living in your history, in your past, in this life, and more than likely in other lives as well. But also the other angle of this is a lot of very deep ancestral healing. And I'm feeling it very strongly, especially with the mother line, because we do have a lot of feminine representation here. We also have, because Virgo is very feminine. We also have things with Venus and Black Moon Lilith. These are all feminine aspects within the astrological world that um they do give a lot of information and wisdom about womanhood and femininity. And it doesn't mean that you have to be a woman to appreciate it. It just means that you have to be able to have a connection and an awareness of your femininity, whether you are a man or a woman. But so many things that I have seen and I have felt are very, very indicative of a massive paradigm shift within our entire world. It's like when we're looking at our personal astrology, like me saying, oh, the solar eclipse was in my first house, the lunar eclipse was in my eighth house. This particular new moon is going to be in my second house. This is a very personal thing that I'm looking at, but when we're doing a collective analysis or evaluation astrologically, we're looking at a bigger picture. But we've had so many different things that have shown up in personal planets, Mercury, Venus, and Mars, the moon, the sun, like all of these things are very, very personal to our everyday life and our existence. And those create building blocks of the life that we're creating. So this is all very important for, the day-to-day stuff and how you are navigating your life from literally like moment to moment, day to day, week to week, and also looking at the bigger picture where the entire collective is being impacted by these shifts as well, because each of us going through these different transformations, that compounds and it ripples out into the world. So that's what creates the collective consciousness. And the unconsciousness, the collective unconsciousness has been rooted for so many years, centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries, has been rooted in deep fear, but also in a wounded patriarchal influence. And so I don't have any issues with my issues are not with men. You know what I mean? I've been married for almost 22 years. I love my husband. I have some really great men in my life. I've got men that work with me as clients. Like they love working with me because they know that I can see them in a different way and that they have a stronger access to their softer side, their more feminine side that the world has really not been supportive of, right? Like so many parts of the world, not all parts of the world, but most of the world especially when you look at like the Abrahamic religions and different things like that. Everything is very, very, very patriarchal, meaning there really isn't a lot of balance between how a man shows up and how a woman shows up, and the respect and the validation and even the pay structure, the job, like there's just so many things that are very lopsided in our culture, from politics to religion to just everyday life. So this isn't about like men are bad. I'm not that kind of feminist. I'm the kind that wants to restore harmony and equilibrium between the masculine and feminine principles, which is honestly, like, at the heart of many, 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 many things, like ancient things, but were reformulated to serve a very, very particular agenda. And that agenda was going to have a lot of influence because men were stronger than women physically. So what were we gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Like, you've got men running into villages and pillaging and raping and torturing and, doing all these different things. It really women didn't really stand a chance to stand against such a force of the Roman Empire and then just different political systems and religious systems throughout Europe and all the places that basically birthed the United States. So you can kind of see, like, if I'm a big studier of history, so you can kind of see, like, if you follow the trail backwards, that, all paths lead to Rome is not a joke. It has been very, very, very influential in the world of religion, very influential in the world of politics, very influential in the world of masculine, feminine dynamics and how they function together. So that is very much in particular what I'm talking about. Um, there are so I have quite a few notes, and I'm gonna be hitting some very key bullet points here. One of the big things that I wanna talk about is that you're reclaiming a part of yourself that you may have hid from or left behind because of wounding changes or lessons. And so what that means is that there's a part of you that is kind of like being reintroduced to something that you thought you lost a long time ago. And maybe you sacrificed it. Maybe you had to make like a really significant compromise. Maybe you didn't realize that you even gave it up. Maybe you didn't realize that you walked away from it, that you made a decision. Like it was an unconscious choice, it was subconscious, it was involuntary. But there was something in your past that you may have decided to kind of depart from or create space between, and maybe it just wasn't the timing, maybe it wasn't working. And now all of a sudden, that thing from the past is starting to be reintroduced into your awareness, but you had to go through a lot of cleansing, clearing to actualize this, like to really be able to see it, because without the awareness to see how it's showing up in your life, it's just gonna go over your head, you will miss it. And it's showing you that the timing just wasn't correct, whenever you had to kind of like walk away from that. But now all of a sudden, there's these new things that are coming into calibration that are very balanced between masculine and feminine principle. And so now you can embody it in a different way. And this is going to be a lot about embodiment. I just want to say there's a lot of embodiment here only because of the different things that I'm seeing and how I can translate the language of the planets and how they're moving and working together. So, and I will say though that, Pisces is not traditionally a sign that echoes embodiment. It is not. And we have 5 placements in Pisces right now for this new moon. So we have the sun, moon, Mercury in retrograde, Mars, and the North Node. Okay, so remember I said South Node is in Virgo, North Node is in Pisces. Well, we have all of these 5 things in Pisces, and most of it is like the personal planets, but also along with this North Node, the North Node is what decides the eclipses. The North and South Node axis is what creates these alignments for the solar and lunar eclipses to be here. So, North Node is all about soul purpose, destiny, following that northern star, finding that northern path for you to traverse. And the South is about karma and what's already been done. So it more relates to a previous incarnation. And the North Node is kind of showing you like this is your destiny, this is your direction, this is the purpose of why your soul came to be incarnated at this time and what it has to kind of like an overarching theme of your life. So, like, my North Node is in Cancer. I know that, and it's like the only water in my chart. I know that my overarching theme in life is to hold a feminine principle, like to raise that feminine standard, to heal the feminine wounding. And because Cancer is all about maternal, nurturing, comforting, taking care of. So it's not me coddling, it's not me mothering, it's me holding a kind of like an empress energy, holding that high priestess energy as a lighthouse, as a beacon, as a force of nature, but not as the Capricorn South node that I have that I've already done that. Like I've already completed that part. If I try to, if I try to use the South node as my North node, meaning like I approach life as an overarching theme with a Capricorn theme to it, that is going to throttle me into repeating the same mistakes over and over and over and over again. So if my overarching theme is to create nourishment and love and comfort and support and guidance and being able to hold the nourishment and providing that, those are two very different things, right? So when we look at Pisces in the North Node, and anybody who is 54, if you're 54 years old, you are in actually 36, 54. Those are both North Node returns. Okay. So that means that you are like this eclipse will probably hit you a little bit more intensely because you are in your node return. And that means like while we're all here doing all of these pivots and realigning the path and the trajectory, Piscean North nodes, you are actually doing it in such like a crazy profound way. Like you're really, really realigning something. It is deep, it is visceral, like you can feel it. And so I completely understand that this has been a very wonky process. We have felt like we're up and down. You know, it's like we've been able to have the breakthroughs, but we've also had a lot of confusion. Pisces energy is very creative and it's very fantasy, imagination. It's very mystical, intuitive. It's a mutable water. So the water is very emotional and it flows and it can go anywhere it wants to go. And that mutable aspect actually gives us a more passive flow of the water because cardinal signs will be much more initiating, like Cancer. The fixed water is Scorpio. That's much more like anchored, like it ain't gonna budge. You're not gonna budge a Scorpio unless you give them a really good reason to. And then the mutable water of Pisces is much more like passive, like, sure, let's go, let's try this, let's move this, let's allow this to happen. And so that's a lot of the energy we've been working with, except we're working with that energy at the same time of facing karmic patterns, breaking and closing off these karmic loops, closing these karmic doors. Like there's a lot of doors that are closing right now. And you are stepping into a very, very new version of yourself. And this can feel very strange because when I have clients or people in my audience that are not very well versed in the astrological components and how they work together, they start gripping. You know what I mean? There's resistance, like, "Why is this happening? What is happening? What?" And I feel like I've been able to go through this very, very differently, and my clients have been able to go through this very differently because I have guided them on how to kind of either be a feather on the wind or be a bob on the wave and just know that, like, everything is happening for you right now. Like, it's literally happening for you right now and that this is a time of making peace with what you are letting go of and really being able to heighten your awareness to your instincts and your emotions and really paying attention to like that psychic emotional energetic landscape in your life. Like that is very, very, very Piscean energy because what's happened is like all of this water, it's starting to dissolve Like, imagine that the karmic stuff and the shadow wounding and the resistance and self-doubt and self-deprecation, all of these things that maybe you have been very hard on yourself for. That's all like this yucky, mucky sediment. And what's happening is these Piscean waters are coming through and they're starting to kind of like dissolve it and kind of move it and kick it up so that you can look at it. But it's allowing us to really see ourselves in a very, very different way than what we are used to and what we are typically comfortable with, which is great because it's in that discomfort where you can actualize these new truths. You know what I mean? Like if you're just always in this place of comfort where you're just trying to curate comfort in your life and you're kind of just repeating the same patterns and you're coloring in the same lines over and over again, you don't really know who you are. You're just kind of like buffering and insulating your life. And if you have big dreams, if you have big goals, if you have a lot of things in life that you desire, you're not going to get there by coloring inside the lines and creating all this comfort. So it's like take a moment and be grateful for all of the major aha situations that have showed up for you during this time frame because they're supporting you to see yourself as you are meant to be seen by yourself, not about how the world is supposed to see you, not about making yourself curating this lovely little package that you are so that the world and other people in your life accept you for who you are. This is about you accepting you for who you are. And that has been a very big purpose of this Mercury retrograde as well. Because as Mercury is retrograding, what it's actually doing is it's kind of like journeying through this underworld, and helping you to come into contact with the things in your mind, with the things of your thoughts, with your ideas, with how you intellectually connect with your world. It is showing you a lot of the ways that it does not work anymore. And Pisces is definitely something that can blur lines. It's not a sign where you get a lot of definitive answers. And I think that's also what's been frustrating for a lot of individuals is they feel like there isn't a lot of solidifying truth in all of this. It can feel like, well, maybe, but like, I don't know. It's like I could feel one way one moment, and then 45 minutes later, my emotions have taken a 180-degree shift, and then by the end of the day, all of a sudden, I'm feeling really, really great again. And so, like I said, it's been like this very wonky kind of roller coaster ride, but it's not a roller coaster. It's like you're moving through the waves. You know what I mean? Just really tap into that Pisces energy of the water because things are gonna change by the end of this week in a really, really, really big way. So, one thing that happened last week that I think is really important to also connect with is that Jupiter went direct in the sign of Cancer. Jupiter has been retrograde since October, okay? And so, Jupiter being the biggest planet in the sky, Jupiter, being the embodiment of good fortune, expansiveness, luck, like enthusiasm, outgoing nature, adventure, exploration, higher learning, like all of the things that really just like advance us into the next level. That has been going retrograde for, since October for 5 months. And what that has done for us is it has helped us to, again, Jupiter traveling through the underworld. What it was doing was helping us to figure out a little, like creating a little bit more of a refined approach to our own growth and development. It introduces a lot of the ways that maybe you haven't been able to see your life, a lot of the capabilities that you have that maybe you had brushed to the side, a lot of the gifts that you came into this world to expand upon that maybe you were keeping a lid on and concealed because you weren't sure if anybody could handle it. So it's very much a lot about like spiritual growth. Okay. It's a lot about spiritual growth, personal development, and how you are here to expand your soul and your service to this life. And so all of that has been under review for the past 5 months. And so there may have been some significant shifts that you noticed there. But last week it went direct and it's in Cancer, which Cancer holds a trine to Pisces. Okay. So that's the kind of energy that feels amplified. Like these two are really amplifying each other right now because even though I'm looking at Jupiter at like 15 degrees Cancer, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of very strong placements when it comes to like these angles of like sextile or, yeah, well, they wouldn't have a sextile, they would have a trine, but they don't have any exact trines. It's a very, very, very loose trine aspect to all of these personal planets that are moving through Pisces. But Jupiter, what I feel is because it's right smack dab in the middle of Cancer, because there's 30 degrees in each sign, it's right smack dab in the middle of Cancer. What I see it doing is like kind of shining a beacon. I feel like it's shining this beautiful expansive light onto the energy of Pisces because it's going to help amplify it. You know, it's going to help amplify everything that is happening in Pisces. It's a turning point for sure. For sure, it's a turning point. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is that it has, hold on one second. I had written down feminine embodiment plus the wisdom potentiality showing up from the black moon Lilith. Venus is in Aries right now at 15 degrees Aries. So it's interesting because Jupiter is in Cancer at 15 degrees. And what I've noticed is that these two have like an exact square. So this is actually an exact square to each other. And squares can create kind of like this friction. And so what I see Jupiter doing with Venus and Aries is it's saying to you, it's time for you to take responsibility. It's time for you to like allow yourself to step into this part of who you are and who you've always been. Because the other aspect that I see here is that like Black Moon Lilith is, I think around 10 degrees, I think it's around 10 degrees of Sagittarius. And so it actually holds a trine to Venus in Aries, which is a very like amplified energy. So let me just kind of break down how I've seen this kind of like feminine, sacred feminine energy showing up with these particular dynamics. Venus was in Pisces for a while, and it had a very strong square to Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius for a little while. And the Black Moon Lilith is more of like the darker feminine energy where it's not bad. It's not bad. It's definitive. It holds the boundary. It holds this certain kind of strength. You know, it's the one that if somebody is going to try to dominate you, manipulate you, control you, gaslight you, change you, you know, do something to you that it shouldn't be doing to you, taking advantage of you in some way to manipulate you for a certain purpose, that dark feminine energy will never let that happen. Like there is no naivete in the dark feminine. She's like, I can see exactly who you are. I can see exactly what you're doing and I won't allow it. And so the Black Moon Lilith is much more authoritative. She's much more like anchored in like this visceral power, this fiery, especially in Sagittarius. She comes in with this fiery enthusiasm of like, watch what I can do. Look at who I am. And she's not afraid to show up as she is. She's very expressive in that. However, when you've got Venus, who is the feminine archetype within astrology, you know, she is Venus, she is Aphrodite. She is more about like the beauty, the pleasure, the playfulness, she's the one who's sitting on a beautiful pink pillow and being fanned by ostrich feathers while she's being fed grapes and listening to somebody play the harp in the background, right? Like she doesn't have to do anything. I see her as sitting like she's a flower. You notice how flowers grow and they don't do anything? You should know what I mean? Like, they don't do anything. They grow and they bloom and blossom, and then everything comes to them. People want to touch them. They want to feel their petals. They want to smell their fragrance. They want to pluck them from the earth, cut them, put them in a vase, put them in their hair, put them in a lapel, put them on a boutonniere, put them on a corsage, put them, you know what I mean? Like, we take flowers. Flowers do nothing, and yet we are all about them. And the same thing for, like, the bees, like, they just exist, and it's like birds and bees and all of these things, they're pollinating and they're feeding off these flowers, and then they're spreading it around in the world, and so the flower does nothing. And so I actually feel like that is a huge, huge, huge representation of sacred feminine energy, where you just exist as this beautiful flower. You're able to just be, and then because of your magnetism, because of the deep knowing of who you are, things just start magically happening around you. It's not about what I'm capable of doing and how much I can get done in a single day and, how long it takes me to, complete this process. And let me go ahead and measure all of my accomplishments and everything that I've been super productive with today. That is nothing like feminine energy, like pure feminine energy. So it's like what's happening is we look at the black moon Lilith and we look at the trine that it's holding to Venus and Aries. And I feel like these two very, 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 very strong feminine archetypes are coming together and they're wanting to balance each other out, but through amplification. It's not like this very gentle harmonizing process. They are amplifying their energy together, and that is what's fueling the calibration between the two. And that is what I see happening in our lives right now, especially as women, but I see it happening for men too. Men reach out to me for coaching. Okay. Like, it's very interesting. I only advertise to women, men reach out to me for coaching. And I've had several men that I've coached that I've helped them get back in their body. I've helped them access the deeper truth and the feminine embodiment that they also need. You know what I mean? Just because they don't have a vagina or get their period doesn't mean that they don't need the feminine. They need it desperately. And women just we need to get back into the restoration and the remembrance and the reclamation of our own femininity, which I really do feel is happening with this new moon. Because as these two come together, and they're amplifying and they're calibrating and they're supporting and nurturing each other. They're fueling each other. And so what's happening is you may have felt like this old ancient feminine energy start percolating in your life, also bridging between like these new actualizations of how you want to be more embodied into your feminine and letting these two kind of merge together within you to create this new paradigm shift within your own reality. Because I think a lot of what people have realized throughout this portal of the eclipses is that how I've been lifing is not how I want to continue lifing. How I have been running myself down, beating myself up, putting so much pressure on myself, forcing things into existence, measuring myself based on what I'm capable of accomplishing, measuring my worth based on what I can get done and how I can showcase that work to the world. Right? Like, oh, look what I did. Look what I can do. Look at how much money I made. Look at what I'm doing. Da, da, da. And so it's not about that anymore. And it's not that you can't have your celebrations. But I think that it's gonna happen in a very different way. I really, 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 really do. And so with this square between Venus and Jupiter, Jupiter is like, girl, you need to check yourself out. You need to look at yourself from head to toe. You really need to see your magic. You need to really come in to the owning of who you are, accept all of the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever your perception has been, whatever your ego has been telling you. Like, we're breaking that mold. Jupiter is breaking that mold. Jupiter is like, we don't have time for this anymore. We do not have time for you to, self vilify and punish yourself and put all of these demands and pressures on yourself to be something and somebody that you're not. It's time to accept all of your mistakes, accept all of your misfortunes, misgivings, missteps, whatever it has been, whatever has fallen apart, whatever it's like, whether it be debt, whether it be failed relationships, whether it be you not being able to do in your life, in your business, what you've really wanted to do, it is time to come to this acceptance that this has happened and that it doesn't actually define who you are because the pivots are here. The plot twist is happening. You have a choice to decide who you want to be. And with that Pisces energy being so strong, so dreamy and creative and compassionate and just that flowy feminine energy, also in a trine with Jupiter and Cancer is saying, go big, baby, dream. Let your mind and your heart, like let that mystic, let that intuitive, the clairvoyant, the channel, the psychic, the medium, the healer, the medicine woman, like whatever it is in here, the priestess, let her be exactly who she wants to be. Dream, get creative. You are the author and the architect within your own life. Stop letting things just happen to you and stop putting blame on other things because things happen to you. It is our job. It is our job, each of us, to take responsibility for where we are and how we got here. And that is every single one of us. And that's a huge thing that showed up for me, like right after the eclipse energy. And the eclipse was fine for me. It was like freaking 4 days later, I'm like, oh my God, did I mess this up? Is this ever going to work? Blah, 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 blah. And then like just knowing that I had to let myself feel those feelings, not as this isn't about victimization. This is not about self-victimization. You allowing yourself to feel what you feel because something was hard, something hurt, something was painful or challenging or uncomfortable for you, you allowing yourself to feel that in your body is actually the best thing for you because so many times we are trying to get out of our body because we can't handle the discomfort. Trust me, you can freaking handle it. And it is time to put yourself back as that force of nature that can handle it. Okay. Because it is whatever happened, whatever it is that got you to where you are right now, whether you are like over the moon, excited, grateful, just like dripping with bliss and euphoria, or you feel like you've been swirling the drain and you've been sinking in quicksand and you just can't seem to get a grip on yourself or life or what you're doing or what you want or where you want to be or who you want to be, like it doesn't matter where you are across that spectrum. There are lessons for each and every one of us to extract throughout this entire portal as we go into this new moon energy and let ourselves kind of be in a flow with the possibilities. Let us be in the potentiality of what's possible because even though like with Pisces energy, I feel like it can definitely be a little frustrating with all of the blurred lines that exist there because it's the very illusion, dreamy, creative. You have to think about like the waters and, looking into the water, like you can't see down to the bottom of the ocean. There, you can only see like, depending on where you are in the world, right? If you're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean, you can't see anything. So you can only imagine what's down there. And that's why Pisces steps into that imaginative realm of creativity and fantasy and dreams and stuff like that, because it is basically like looking into the ocean. It's always moving. There are no definitive lines of waves, though you will never see the same wave twice. And so with that opens up like the third eye. It opens up the mystical channels for you to be able to scry and kind of like just allow your mind to open, allow your energy to open and kind of like just be in a dance with yourself. Just like if you were swimming in the waters, like I remember being little and being in the waters and feeling like I was a mermaid. I was swimming with dolphins. I could also imagine that there was a shark in the pool, like and there like you're in the water, it's a world of fantasy. Whether you're playing Marco Polo, whether you're scuba diving, whether you're on a raft, whether you're water skiing, whether you are just floating, doing the breaststroke, doggy paddling, like, the water is a place where it is mystical and mysterious and playful and expansive to our imagination and fantasy. And so that is the energy that we're in right now. Okay. Like very, 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 very lots of fantasy and creation. So this is where you get to really expand your mind, expand your energy, expand into, because that Jupiter, remember that Jupiter is shining a light into Pisces right now. It's shining a light and it's saying, like, I want you to dream really big. I want you to never put don't put any structure around your dreams right now or your desires. Don't put a framework around it. Allow it to flow, allow it to be. And then, because we are going to be stepping into Aries energy very soon, and with that being said, that there's gonna be a lot of Aries energy that takes control of these dreams. So if you can take the time to plant the seeds of creation based on your imaginative efforts, based on the field of potentiality, which is basically like, I'm going to dream the things that almost seemed impossible to me, because you may have said to yourself, I really want, let's say, look, all right, I'll tell you something that I have wanted for the past couple of years that I haven't done it yet because I haven't been able to do it yet. But that's not to say that I can't do it, right? So for the past couple of years, I have really wanted to invest in a secondary property that would be an income property, but also be my retreat house because I love hosting retreats. And so I've been hosting retreats in my business since 2021. And I would love to buy my own property that I could host my retreats on. But also, when I'm not hosting retreats or my family isn't vacationing there, it becomes an income property where people can use it as an Airbnb, right? Like that just sounds like a really smart idea for me and a really amazing opportunity, a really great business venture, a really amazing way to spread and circulate money while also serving a really, really, really incredible purpose. And so if I look at my life and I say to myself, like, oh, well, I started wanting this like over 2 years ago and I still haven't been able to do it yet. And so I don't think I'm going to put that on my seeds of creation list because it feels like it's still too far away. That right there. Don't do that. You know, like the things that you're thinking of yourself, like, I really want this kind of business. I really want this kind of income. I really want this kind of opportunity. I really want to travel here. I really want to meet this kind of person. I really want to attract this kind of client. I really just want to spend this kind of time with my family. I really just want to have this experience. And even though you're looking back and you're thinking to yourself, but it hasn't happened yet and it hasn't been possible. And every time I've tried, something has kind of fallen apart. Those are the ones I'm going to insist that you double down on in this Pisces new moon portal because, like I said, this is field of potentiality. It's like we have the things that are very predictable in our lives, right? And then we can kind of expand a little bit beyond that, like, ooh, I wonder what's possible. But going into the field of potentiality is beyond what we think is possible. It's the stuff that we almost have decided is not possible. And that's where I want you going with your dreams and your goals and all of that. And really, and then again, reinforcing that feminine embodiment because this isn't about taking action. Not yet. Not yet. We will be in that energy once we go into Aries, which will be at the end of this week on the 20th. Okay. So that is why I wanted to share, like, oh, feminine embodiment, the wisdom potentiality. You have developed an incredible amount of wisdom based on your experiences. So your experiences are not just here to showcase what you have been able to do or not do. Your experiences are not just here to fuel your ego to either repel something or magnetize something. Your wisdom is your experiences. Okay. So through every experience, you gain more wisdom. You learn a lesson. You are able to reflect back and ask yourself some very specific questions about that, and then use that to harness your power and move you forward. But in the feminine way, it's not about doing. It's not about doing. It's about being. This is a being portal. Who am I? Who can I be? Who do I want to be? Who am I available to be? What have I been striving to be? And how can I be that for myself, for my business, for my clients, for my family, for me? Just because I live in this skin, I live in this body every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year from the moment I took my first breath. Actually, before I even took my first breath, I was in this body, right? From the moment of conception, as my body started forming, I have been in this vessel. And till I take my last breath, I will be in this vessel. And so, how do I want to feel in this vessel? Who do I want to be in this vessel? How do I magnetize my dreams, my desires in this vessel? Okay. The flower. Think of the flower when you are wondering to yourself, how do I really step into that feminine embodiment without realizing how disembodied I have been and how embodied I am? Because that is one of those really tricky things. We don't know what we don't know. And so I have found that so many people, including myself, have felt like yes to this, yes, 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 yes. But then in my body, it's like, oh no, no, and that tells me that there's a disconnect between the intellect and ideology of my mind and my thoughts versus what I hold as truth in my belief system, in the nervous system, in my identity, in my body. Okay, so those are very, very, very different things. Just because you might think that something is going to work, if your body doesn't agree, it isn't going to work. Okay, so this is about getting back in the body, self-actualizing your identities plural within the body, because we are getting ready for Aries, and Aries is all about the self, all about identity. So I think it's going to be a really, 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 really strong effort on your part to really start getting very clear on who you want to be in this life over the next phase, throughout the next chapter. Especially in the fire horse, in that fire horse energy, very, very, very momentous, very fast and fiery and enthusiastic, and wants to take charge and wants the movement. But if you can handle the embodiment piece, the movement will start to come very naturally for you. You won't have to really think about the strategy as much, and, how I'm going to get there and all of the different things that I have to do to put myself in that situation. When you start to get much more clear on who you are and how you are and why you are, all of these things, right? They start to kind of like connect the dots, and the synapses are firing off. Everything is really connecting through. Then you get to really embrace a part of yourself that is embodied. And that is actually what draws in the desires and the goals and the dreams, like the flower. The flower doesn't question itself. The flower is not wondering if it's pretty enough. The flower is not sitting there hoping, like, I hope somebody picks me. I hope somebody comes and smells me today. I think the flower is reaching for the sun, reaching for the air, reaching for the limitlessness because it's outstretched, and it's just like, here I am, love me. And that is it. Then the flower is the most embodied thing because it's not questioning its worth. It's not wondering if it's good enough to be next to the other flowers. It's not wondering what else it needs to do to make sure that all of its petals are perfect and the fragrance is spot on, and all of the leaves that extend out from the stem are, perfectly symmetrical, and all of these things. The flower just is. And yet it is always gravitated towards. So if you can really just see yourself as the flower, I think it's going to be a really great method of beginning that journey of embodiment and identity work. The last thing I wanted to mention is that because, at the end of this week, so on the 20th, actually, there's two things then. On the 20th, we have the first day of Aries, we have the spring equinox, and Mercury goes back direct. Okay. And so there is, because Mercury is going direct, first day of Aries, like vernal equinox, like this is the recipe for like, whew, we gonna move, right? So that's why I feel like for this week, before we really get into like the 20th energy, we want to be the flower. We want to really embody such a deep presence within ourselves. And that means taking note as where to that like little discomfort might be. you've got to be able to move through the discomfort within yourself. That's paying attention to how you're letting yourself get distracted. I don't want to feel this, so I'm going to do something else. I don't want to think about this, so I'm going to scroll, Facebook. I don't want to be in this emotion right now. I don't like the way it feels in my body, so I'm going to go do something else. So we're constantly distracting ourselves and taking ourselves out of the space that is the body. We're very much always reaching outside of our body because of things that don't feel comfortable in the body. But I tell you this, if you can actually breathe through your discomfort, if you can cry, if you can release, if you can let certain things go, like that's how you let things go. Okay. That's how you move through things. That's how things become less important because it's not a living frequency in your body anymore. It's something that you've been able to encounter it, look at it, face it, see it in a different light, also feel the discomfort or the pain in your body, let yourself breathe and cry through that, let that move through you. That's where it releases. That's where it can transmute into something else that is going to be so much more serving to your existence. And so the last aspect here is the sun and moon is holding a sextile to Uranus and Taurus. And that is like a perfect sextile. I just want you to know because the sun and the moon are going to be at like 27 and 28 degrees, and Uranus and Taurus is at 20, I think just about 28 degrees. So that is like a perfect sextile. And sextiles are very harmonious. They have a very cooperating energy. They flow really nicely together. So what I have felt with this is I wrote down, let your vision be awakened. Something surprising is about to rock your world. You're about to see what is really in your potential based on what is in your field, what's being communicated through your aura. You're about to find a new way to exercise freedom in your life by breaking through the old identities and the old parts of yourself that have been holding you back. And that's why this Piscean energy it's such a good resource for us right now because we almost need that blurred energy, that blurred lines, you know what I mean? Where we're not having this exact framework of, okay, this is the way it needs to be, and this is how it has to be structured, and this is what it's supposed to look like, and this is how I need to show up. It's more about like letting things kind of like break away and dissolve so that something new can be restructured in its wake. But right now is not the time for structuring. Right now is the time for dreaming and being creative and allowing the inner artist and author and creator to step forward. Like imagine, a Michelangelo or, a Da Vinci kind of energy stepping in front of a canvas with a palette and a paintbrush and thinking to yourself, what do I want to create? What does my intuition naturally channel through in this mystical energy? Through my intuition, through my aura, through my spirit, through my heart, through all of me when everything comes into unity together, not because it's all structured to be unified, but because it's all kind of flowing within and around each other and having a very different experience that is very feminine rooted. Okay. I think that's it. You're going to find a new freedom in your life throughout this portal, though. I feel like this is going to really support a new identity, a new way of individuality, an authentic expression that's really never been there before. And just staying in this for now, because when we go into next week, like starting over this weekend into Monday, Tuesday, we're going to start seeing a shift going more into Aries energy because the personal planets are going to start moving in that direction. And so the kind of blurred lines are going to shift. It's astrological new year. We are at the end. We are at the end of the astrological wheel, the final sign of the zodiac. And so all of these doors are closing. The new doors are going to be opening within the next couple of weeks. And that is when you're going to start really stepping into, you're going to be anchoring and integrating the identity that is forming now so that it can take action because Aries is very action oriented. It wants the independence and the individuality within the self to direct towards a particular endeavor, initiate the energy towards it, get that fire, that inferno energy moving and throttling you towards the desired goal. Okay. But you don't want to burn out too quick. So we will get into that for another, another video where we talk about how the Aries energy is going to be supporting us because our next full moon is going to be it's going to be in Libra. Yeah, I think it's going to be in Libra. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm a Libra. Um, so that will be in a couple of weeks, and we will definitely talk about all of the different things that are happening there. And there will be a lot of Aries energy that is supporting our endeavors. So right now, stay in the creative feminine flow, stay in the embodiment, allow yourself to dream big, stay very creative, see how things are lighting up around you. You are being directed to something. You just have to pay attention. Pay attention. Breathe, allow yourself to stop and smell the flowers, embrace the sunshine, like really activate your senses. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that little bell for the notifications, and I will see you in the next video.